Common question I get is, what's the most economical way to connect one analog input or output to a PLC? In this case, we have a Compactlogix 1769L18, and built in, it has 16 inputs, 16 outputs, and we end up needing that one odd analog module. Now, there's two ways we can do it. One, we can simply add these point IO modules to the side of the L18, and we can get a voltage or a current input. But also, if we have a device over Ethernet that already has analog, we can actually pass that through. And I'm seeing this more and more on user programs. So on this Powerflex 525, it actually has a 0 to 10 volt analog input and a 4 to 20 milliamp analog input. And then it has one analog output that can be either 4 to 20 or 0 to 10. Let's start with a new project. And if you're using one of our standard trainers, it would be the 1769L16ER. Right now I'm set up on a 1769L18, but it will work exactly the same. And I'm going to call this my analog through drive. And I am going to run version 32 on this one. And I have two modules, even though we're not going to actually use them. But you still have to put them in or you'll fault the PLC. Then we're connecting to this Powerflex 525 over Ethernet. So I'm going to right click Ethernet under the IO configuration and go to new module. And in my filter box, I'm going to type Powerflex 525. And our trainer comes with the third one down, Powerflex 525 via embedded Ethernet. I will call this my trainer drive. And this box is always too small by default, so I'm going to bring my arrow down to it points up and down, drag that out a little wider, and my IP address is going to be 192.168.1.192. That's the IP address of this drive. And then I'm going to go to the connection format tab, and we can actually pass inputs and outputs through the drive. So for my input, I want to read that 0 to 10 volt signal. So I'm going to hit this drop down and I'm going to type 360. And that is going to be my analog input, 0 to 10 volt. And then we have an output tab up here. And on my top parameter of it, I am going to type 90, and that is my analog output. And I'll click OK. Create, then we're going to download. And if you need any help downloading your program or went too fast through creating or even the Ethernet configuration, we have videos on all that, so hit that subscribe button. Once you go into run mode, your IO not responding light is going to be flashing, but let's make sure we see why it's flashing. Also, let's make sure that we do have it communicating. So we're going to right click our Powerflex because we have the microscopic little yellow triangle, and we're going to go to properties. And if we have a connection issue, then we want to ignore whatever's going on here. Don't worry about it if it says failed to splice path or anything like that. We're going to go to the connection tab. And it says connection request error, module not configured. This is okay. If it says connection request timeout here, then check your IP address. That's probably the problem. And we're getting the module configured error because we told it in Studio 5000 that we want to pass the analog input and analog output to our Compactlogix PLC, but we didn't configure our drive to do it. And to do that, we're going to need to change 3 parameters in the Powerflex 525. 2 of them are going to match what we did in Studio 5000's configuration. So we're going to change parameter C 153 to 90, and that's going to let it talk over Ethernet to that analog output set point. And then we're going to change parameter C 157 to 360. That'll let us read that analog input from the drive. And then we're going to need to change parameter T 188. And that controls what we're actually getting on the analog output of our drive. By default, it's the motor speed. So 0 to 10 volts is 0 to 60 hertz. We're going to change it to that analog set point by setting it to 6. To get into your parameters, we're going to hit the select key, and you're going to see the B start flashing. And if we hit the up arrow, we're going to get to the P's. If we hit it again, we'll get to the T's. And finally, we hit it one more time, we're going to be in the C's. And 153, it needs to be at 90. Then go to 157. It needs to be at 360. And in fact, at this point, we should have a solid I/O light, and we do, and our module fault has gone away. So that fixes our module not configured error, but we still got to change T188. We'll hit the escape button. That's going to get us back to here. We're going to hit the escape button again. That'll highlight our C's. We're going to go down to our T's, and we want 88. It needs to be at 6. I've wired the potentiometer to the analog input of the drive, and I've wired my meter to the analog output of the drive, and I have videos on that if you need any help. But when we created trainer drive, it also created tags. So open up your controller tags, and we're going to go to trainer drive :I, and there is our analog input, 0 to 10V. I have it at about the 12 o'clock position, and we're showing about 5 volts. So as I turn it counterclockwise, it's going to go down to 0. And as I turn it clockwise, it's going to go up to roughly 1,000. Then we have our meter on the trainer drive :O. And it's right here on our analog out set point. And the range is the same. 0 to 1,000 on this analog output is going to be 0 to 10 volts on our meter. So if I put 500 here, then when I press the enter key, it goes to 5 volt. Now you probably want to scale those analog values before you start working with them. And I've created this playlist right here with some scaling examples.